Welcome to 5 Things About Dyslexia for Dyslexia Awareness Month. What is and isn't dyslexia?
Dyslexia is neurobiological, brain-based, and is not related to intelligence or other cognitive abilities. This condition is not related to vision, hearing, socioeconomic, or race or language groups. Of course, like other children, there are dyslexic kids that also have attention issues, vision issues, or hearing issues, or other conditions that teachers should consider.
Like other children, dyslexic children can have many talents. Like other children, dyslexic children are individuals with their own strengths and weaknesses.
Dyslexia is also a social issue. There are studies in both Texas and Louisiana, 20 years apart, that had the same results. Nearly half of all incarcerated people are functionally illiterate due to dyslexia and poor instruction. This is more than double, nearly triple the prevalence rate in general. Rates are higher among the homeless population and in foster care system.
It's the most common learning disability.
Dyslexia is also an economic issue. We spend money downstream because we don't invest upstream. Literacy is a determinant factor of health, mental health, public health, workforce development, economic security, and democracy.
Okay, back to how dyslexia affects teaching and learning.
Dyslexic people do not see words backwards, and words don't jump. Dyslexic students don't reverse letters, and without good instruction, they guess what letters belong where in words. You'll see these students using letters that look alike in lowercase incorrectly, but they use capital letters in the correct position in the same word. Dyslexia is trouble connecting sounds to symbols and the reverse. The path in the brain where the symbols turn into a sound with meaning is long and arduous for a dyslexic student.
And English has a lot of sounds and symbols.
Yet, good instruction helps dyslexics build shorter, more efficient pathways.
What are some signs of dyslexia?
We can screen very young kids at risk for dyslexia. Qualified psychologists can identify dyslexia very early. Language overwhelm is worth pointing out. If you hear replacement words like thing or thingy, or workarounds like the other ocean over there by California, or simply a long silence, that's a word retrieval issue. If a kid seems to have trouble tying shoes, it's because they have trouble following multi-step direction. And it may take what seems an inordinate amount of explicit instruction and practice to learn what seems so easy.
Dyslexic kids are often exhausted. They use more brain resources than their peers to read the same thing in school.
If one member of your family is dyslexic, you have a 65% chance of being dyslexic also.
Can dyslexic people learn to read? Of course, dyslexic people can learn to read.
The English language is more complicated than other languages. You can be dyslexic in any language, but decoding a language with fewer codes is much easier. The English language has more than 250 symbols, letters, groups of letters that make one sound. With really good explicit instruction based on a scope and sequence delivered with fidelity, struggling readers and dyslexic students can learn to read.
What are the foundations of learning to read and teaching reading?
There is a large amount of research on reading instruction. The evidence points to implementing a strong phonics curriculum along with building knowledge and fluency. This infographic is based on the idea that if a strand of rope is weak, the rope is weak, and it calls out many of the ingredients of reading. Nobody is a phonics-only advocate. Phonics are necessary, but not sufficient. I'm calling it out because most struggling readers and all dyslexic kids need extra, well-delivered phonics instruction, and most teachers have not been taught how to do this well. Language comprehension is important too. So it is counterproductive to offer reading interventions when a kid can be learning more language comprehension skills in, for example, social studies class. Missing from this chart is fluency, the ability to read with accuracy, speed, and prosody. If you had a limited accuracy and intonation, you might not follow the grammar cues. You might misunderstand a very simple phrase. For example,
Let's eat, Grandma.
or,
Let's eat, Grandma.
hmm,
What guidance is there for schools and districts on dyslexia?
we see the cost of poor teaching prep in our special education spending in upper elementary, middle, and high schools, even in our adult literacy efforts. Most teaching colleges do not teach teachers how to teach reading. Dyslexia is rarely mentioned, even in special education classes. Due to parent pressure from groups like Decoding Dyslexia,
This is changing.
the Federal Department of Education has issued a guidance memo on dyslexia. The state of New York has issued some guidance on dyslexia, and both say dyslexia can be listed on an IEP, an individual education plan. New York State also says that some dyslexic students will benefit from well-delivered academic intervention services that could mitigate the need for an IEP. Dyslexic students are the canaries in the coal mine, calling for better literacy instruction for everyone. New York City Public Schools is responding to that crisis with professional learning for teachers in screening, teaching, and monitoring progress.
What is your district doing? Thank you.
To learn more, email decodingdyslexianyc@gmail.com.